So I asked him kindly, can you then constitute a team from all relevant agencies that can assist us to make sure that within a 2-month period, KNPHI is operational? And he did appoint the team. I'm here with 2 of the members. One was from the Public Service Commission, a very senior officer from PSC, Mr. John Opondo. He is right here. Can we appreciate him? Very critical indeed, because all the persons that are to transit from the Ministry of Health are employees of the Public Service Commission. And then when it comes to government policy on matter staff, it is the Ministry of State for Public Service, and they appointed again one of their senior officers, a director, Mr. Stuma Makoha, who is again here from Ministry of State. We can appreciate him. He also appointed a person from the National Treasury, but unfortunately we got the information late. The 2 from the Office of the Attorney General and the National Treasury, they are not here with us. And there was one from the Inspectorate of State Corporation. I think she should be coming. And chair of this session, who is our Cabinet Secretary, Health, and the chief guest. This team did a fantastic job to make sure that all the due process, all the legal requirements to transit the assets and staff of KNPHI from the Ministry of Health to KNPHI were observed. What progress have we made? Number 1, we made sure that we did the mapping of all the staff transited by law. The law required that all the staff that were in the 13 divisions be properly mapped and given the opportunity to choose to either transit to KNPHI or remain within the government side that is the civil service. We did the mapping, and these staff were identified and given the option. We had a meeting with all the staff here. We took them through the process, and they were given the option, and we are very happy that staff are there who decided to move, and they did it in writing and signed letters agreeing to move, and others also decided to remain within government, which was their constitutional and legal right. Can we appreciate the staff that have moved and the ones who have exercised their right to remain within the civil service? The next stage, our chief guest and CS Health, was resources. There are 2 types of resources or assets. The first type is the inventory, and we are so lucky that the law, the public finance management regulations, have provided that the inventories are simply transferred by an accounting officer. And therefore, the head of public service directed now the 2 accounting officers, the accounting officer for the State Department for Medical Services and the accounting officer for the State Department for Public Health and Professional Services. They were required to transfer the inventories. And again, I want us to appreciate the 2 accounting officers because they have executed their role. The next one is the assets that are contained in what we call statutory registers, like the motor vehicles and land. Now, those ones, the head of public service has required the cabinet secretary to the National Treasury, who has the powers, and it is at an advanced stage. Waziri, if I think you just talk to your counterpart at the National Treasury, I think that is something that is going to happen very soon. Now, as a task force, we are gathered here also to wash our hands because the baby was born, and right now the baby is in the arms of the cabinet secretary. And therefore, there is one thing that the cabinet secretary is required to do, and once he does that, we are good and done. Not one thing, 2 things. Waziri, we have just that. If the 2 things are done, KNPHI is up and running. Number 1, funds. These 13 divisions had funds domiciled within the 2 state departments, the State Department for Medical Services and the State Department for Public health and professional services. If Waziri, you just order those funds to be transferred to KNPHI today, you will have done everything, because that is the single most thing that is remaining. Because the payroll, this gentleman in the Ministry of Public Health, Mr. Stuma, is stuck. He is supposed to separate the payroll. But to separate the payroll, we require a confirmation that there are funds within KNPHI. Now, so far we have been talking to KNPHI and the funds are not there, because I think there's a delay somewhere. So Waziri, if today you transfer the funds, because the funds were already voted for the 13 divisions, and they are in the two state departments. If the funds are transferred today, the payroll will also be separated today, and KNPHI will be running, not doing 10,000 meters, but 100 meters, very, very fast. In fact, we can have that operationalized today and ended. Just the aspect of the transfer of the funds. We are aware that in the next financial year, funds will be provided in the budget with a one-line budget for KNPHI, but we don't need to go there. Because the head of public service is asking me every day, has the payroll been separated? And the head of public service wrote a letter to the PS, State Department for Public Service. And that letter is there, just waiting for confirmation from KNPHI that the funds have been transferred to KNPHI. So Waziri, thank you so much. I was here to wash my hands and say the baby is born, and if the baby dies, it is in the arms of the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon, for giving the responsibility to the Cabinet Secretary to ensure that the baby not only survives but thrives to achieve its full potential. Cabinet Secretary, Africa as a continent records more than 100 public health emergencies. We are just 5 years after the COVID-19 pandemic, and we saw the challenges that we went through in terms of our coordination, in terms of implementing the non-medical countermeasures. Those public health emergencies cost the continent to the tune of 30 to 100 billion shillings every year. For example, the 2014-2016 Ebola outbreak in the countries of Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia cost those three economies more than $4.5 billion. Public health institutes are a global best practice, and we are now joining a community of more than 94 other global jurisdictions which have operationalized public health institutes. I think we'll become number 95 out of the 194 WHO member states. The public health institutes are also the organs that implement the international health regulations, a legally binding instrument signed by the 194 member states of WHO to ensure that trade and travel is not restricted even when we have outbreaks of diseases, be it epidemics or pandemics. And in the next 2 weeks, the global community is going to meet in Geneva during the World Health Assembly, and we are going to approve a very important document, the Pandemic Treaty, based on the lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. Again, the National Public Health Institute will be the custodian of implementation of the Pandemic Treaty to ensure the protection of lives and livelihoods, even when we have global health problems. We have done numerous joint external evaluations to be able to find out our capacity to be able to prevent, detect, and respond to public health emergencies. This became even more important after the Ebola outbreak in 2014-2016. We have made progress in certain areas. We need to do a lot more in certain areas so that we can be able to tick the boxes in all the facets of the joint external evaluation. We have also done our national action plan for health